Oh, well, that's a great question. I never really thought about it. I just off the top of my head, I would say that most of the wrestlers that I had interacted with and worked with over the years tended to be more right of center. Um, and that probably has something to do with the independent contractor clause and how inapplicable that is to what we do. But we certainly have some that are, left and left of center, and that should be. And then you take a group of 100 people, you shouldn't have all conservatives or all liberals or all of anything. You should have a cross section of everything. We certainly have, as I saw with Jim Cornette a few weeks ago in Detroit, some that are extremely left of center. And, in my case, I would consider myself to be further down the spectrum to the right. But, again, without doing like a quantitative analysis, I would say that just in general, at the top of my head, most of the guys were either, if you visualize a spectrum of, left and right and a halfway mark, I would say most were right of the halfway mark.
Yes, and that gentleman from Louisville, Mr. Cornette, speaking to an unnamed person who I will not reveal who they were over the air when I was speaking to them on Saturday, said that a Jim Cornette, Shane Douglas political debate is, quote, money. So I just want to dangle that carrot out there. But it also goes to show you might be on different sides of the fence, but when you guys see each other, you're still friendly, you're still cordial, because at the end of the day, you're still humans. You still have to interact like normal people when you're in front of each other.
Yeah, well, as normal as wrestlers can be anyway.
Hey, and before we wrap it up here, I just want to ask this, politically speaking. I don't know if you ever did, or I'd love to hear it, but did you ever have any kind of political discussion with Vince McMahon? Because obviously Linda's in the cabinet, but, and Vince is obviously Trump has been involved with the WWE for many, many years, but did you and Vince ever get to chop it up politically speaking?
No, my discussions with Vince were, as you can imagine from the relationship that most people know between us, was very much left to business. But I did used to, especially when I went to WWF in 1990, Jesse Ventura and I used to really have some heated discussions. Jesse, at that time, I was right of center, obviously. And Jesse would take, excuse me, I get the hiccups. Jesse would take, this uber liberal point of view. And what I found strange was later when he became governor of Minnesota was how conservative he was on several issues, mostly economic. Jesse tended to be, after he became a governor, tended to be a social conservative and a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. And I think so, looking back on it, as the young kid in the dressing room, he was probably more just doing it to yank my chain. But we used to have some really good discussions, and go about things. And, you knew you were scoring points with Jesse when his leg would start to bounce and he'd get pissed off and, he'd cut the conversation off and get up and leave the room. And, but Jesse was about the only one I ever remember having like real lengthy political conversations with.
I feel like maybe that could be a link in the chain to get Vince and Shane back together again. Maybe let's cut the rug over a little political discussion. See, maybe I'll change my view of this guy after all these years.
Yeah, boy, you are a pie in the sky liberal, aren't you? Because if you believe that's possible.
Hey, I'm the ultimate optimist. What can I say?
Get me and Vince together and we can sing Kumbaya, right?
As long as Paul Heyman is in the background tapping the little drum and leading everybody, then yes, absolutely.
Well, stunningly, and this is probably the biggest shocker to me, Paul Heyman is extremely liberal. Extremely. Surprised me, because, keep in mind, he grew up in Scarsdale, New York. His dad was a big-time attorney of a family of means and wealth. you know, and at first, when we first started, like, with ECW, we'd have a conversation here and there, and I just figured he was yanking my chain because, you know, he knew how conservative I was in right of center. But, boy, there were other times, like, when, you know, he would get really heated, you know, not as bad as Jim Cornette did 2 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago, whatever it was, but, yeah, I was surprised that, and again, I haven't spoken to Paul in years and years, so I don't know if he's altered that with having become a dad, and you know, that has a way of suddenly, you know, growing up and, you know, becoming a family man suddenly has a way of having an impact on your political views. It's easy to be liberal or conservative when you're 20, and it's a lot different when you're 40 or 50 or older and, you know, taking care of a family. But yeah, Paul Heyman was you know, on that spectrum, right and left. I would say Paul Heyman was down about as far to the left as you could get.